Much, Riv, and I'll sum it up for you in one word. Timo.
Hey, that's not fair. Timo did what he could. He got first blood.
Worth it. It was totally
yes, it
worth
was.
it.
Yes, it was.
The one thing that I think I want to just quickly chat to you guys about that I think is a little more resounding, the idea of swapping roles, of having top lane play support, etc. Crepa, for example, is the best in Nivea in all of the European LCS, 100%, undefeated record, better than Froggen.
Represent.
I mean, Froggen went, what, 0-3 in the summer split? But in all seriousness, why do we not see players swapping roles more often?
Because this can happen.
I think,
that was brutal. That was just brutal.
Come on. They set up for a less serious game. Okay, they didn't win. They knew there was one of the possibilities. They could have done it. I think role swapping is fine if both players master all the champions. I think some people in TSM just wanted to play certain things. And you end up always with somebody getting forced in a role that they weren't as comfortable with. The game I played back in the day when Froggen swapped me, I wasn't comfortable. I just had to shout, like, don't touch my farm. Get away. Get away. So, yeah.
And kept hoping the camera wasn't on you for your stunts.
Oh my god, my CS as well.
I think it's worth pointing out as well that I had predicted GamingGear to be the dark horse of this group, and they did pull a win, so...
Hindsight's a beautiful thing.
Ironic that the dark horse team picks up a victory against Hecarim in their last game. Just saying.
Although, if it was your dark horse, where was your prediction for them to win?
I pulled a double lift here.
Yeah, good shit. Or, good job, Krieg.
In retrospect, I should have had more faith in them. But, oh well. I mean, when you have Timo, you can't vote against Timo.
All right, Double Lift, we're putting a muzzle on you now.
Well, I failed you guys.
Let's talk a little bit serious. Let's step back and talk about what just happened now. Kobe mentioned the fact that the next game is going to be the last game of groups. It is OMG versus SKT. This is more bragging rights than anything else. And of course, what we're going to be doing after that game is the quarterfinal draws. For the viewers that might be wondering the format, we're going to invite the captains of all of the teams that got buys individually onto stage. They're going to make a draw for where in the bracket they will be finding themselves, in the top half of the bracket, bottom half of the bracket, and they will draw who their opponents will be. So we will be determining those quarterfinal matchups. And just to give everybody a rundown of the teams in the group, Fnatic, Gambit, Cloud9, Najin Shield, SK Telecom T1, Royal, OMG, as well as the Gamma Bears.
Yeah.
So let's talk about these teams. For the teams that have a bye, what sort of advantage do they have having watched 40 group games and being able to prepare? Talk to me a little bit about that.
They've definitely got a better handle on the teams. These guys have had to fight for their lives specifically in these matches. We'll take Group A, for example. TSM put very close games against OMG and SKT1. Those teams had to play their hardest to make sure they got out of group. Same for Group B. You saw how hard Gambit and Fnatic had to fight for their lives. Whereas for teams like Sword or teams like Royal Club, while they've been playing in the regular leagues here, they've had a little bit more time to prepare in darkness and have a couple more strategies up their sleeves.
Yeah, the biggest advantage of having watched 40 games is having watched 40 games. The biggest disadvantage is that you're coming in cold. You have no tournament experience. You haven't made a single mistake on this stage yet. You haven't been influenced. You haven't yet had to bounce back. In scrims, it's always easy. If you have a bad early game, you just restart or you play another game.
Yeah, it's also for the teams that were waiting for the buy into the quarterfinals. You have to consider, too, that with no other tournaments pretty much happening right now, they may not have the ideal number of scrim partners at the moment because a lot of teams may be taking breaks or they've been scrimming here at Worlds against the other Worlds teams. So it's not just that you're coming in cold in terms of competition. You may also be coming in a little colder than you may have liked in terms of practice.
Yeah, the teams that are playing here right now have a distinct advantage because not only have they been practicing, but just being used to your peripherals and being used to the stage is so important. If you come in and it's your very first game on the world stage, you're not going to be nearly as comfortable just in your setup, like maybe your chair is in the right height or something like that, and it can really throw off your game.
At the same time, with the randomness of this format, the way the groups are drawn in the quarterfinals, you have no idea who you're playing against, so you'll have to prepare for 4 possible teams, which is really hard, and it will not give you that distinct advantage as if you're in a normal format where you know who you're going to meet the next round.
I'm really happy that you actually highlight that. And I think part of the reason we're doing the random draw is to ensure that these teams that have the extra time aren't sitting and seriously anti-stratting their opponents and, really spending more hours on defeating one matchup than actually planning or playing or working on their own game. I've got a question I want to pose to the two guys who've actually played on stages like this. Talk to me about, as a team, you've been practicing in the dark, you've got your compositions, you've got your thoughts about teams in mind. You've now watched teams like Fnatic pulling out double assassin comms, pulling Zac top lane, Yorick top lane, you've seen Loveland and all of his ganks. How much of an impact does this have on your picks and bans? I know it gives you more information to work with, but do you now start to discount your previous research, or is this just now a bigger playbook that now all of a sudden, instead of like 27 champs that you think about, you know about, now it's up to like 40 because, oh my god, we didn't see these things?
It definitely depends on how drastically your initial research and the new information you got at Worlds is different. So like, for example, if you did research on Fnatic and they pulled out something crazy here, you would just instantly ban that thing and then just know that they would revert back to the thing that they've been practicing, you know, weeks ago. So if you see something new, it gives you a distinct advantage because you can just be like, I'm going to ban that, and I know exactly what they're going to play. They're going to go back to their comfort picks.
Also depends on what kind of team you are. Some teams have this very distinct style that they just will always play, and they will force enemies to adapt to them. Gambit is one of those teams that comes to mind. They don't really care who they play. They will just try and play their own game all the time. Same with Fnatic. They have this weird little play style that nobody actually can describe. On the other hand, you have teams that are really reactive and like to predict what enemies are going to do. And for those teams, it's really nice to see what the trends have been throughout these group stages.
Yeah, I want to echo Doublelift a bit here because as we've seen from, for example, Ozone, who failed to really adapt during this tournament and got kicked out, none of these teams have really changed their play styles by any major measure with the new patches. So, okay, you've seen them in NLB, you've seen them in LPL and whatnot. These teams are all still going to play the same as they did a month and a half ago, for the most part. Some new picks come in. Of course, Corky's a new guy, okay, whatever. But for the most part, all that old research holds up. And as you said, Doublelift, if they have something completely new, okay, maybe you ban it out, or maybe you learned how to beat it in time.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how these teams do that, and even more excited about this draw. Guys, we need to move on for our very last group stage game, and it's time for everyone on the desk here to pick the final match winners, or at least who they think is going to be the winner. It's going to be SK Telecom T1 versus OMG, and remember, OMG beat SKT the last time these two teams met. So Monty, talk to me. Who's your prediction?
I'm going to take SK Telecom. I think that they're going to take this match very seriously. I don't think they're going to show anything too unique, but we saw that methodical play coming in against Gaming Gear earlier today, and I know they want revenge, of course. You know, it was a little bit of egg on their face to lose to OMG the first time. They're going to want to head into group strong, and OMG, they've shown, maybe they've loosened up, relaxed their style a little bit here in the last few games, so.
Doublelift, what's your prediction?
I'm with SKT. I'm with Mani on this one because I feel like SKT only really lost the initial match against OMG because they weren't used to that kind of strategy that OMG was pulling. And now that they've had time to review it, their mid-game, I think, is just this much better than OMG's, and they're going to pull it out.
I'll have to agree with these great analysts. I think SKT1 is going to be the favorite going into this game, especially because they struggled in their early game, which have gradually improved, not to a point where it's perfect, but their coach may have exposed the weaknesses in their 3v1 meta game early, and hopefully they can bring that out. I think Faker's going to be really on fire. He will want to prove that he's the best mid laner in the world. SKT seems to be, I think, is going to be more hungry than OMG, who will probably be hiding a little more of their strategies. That's what I guess, but then again, I've been wrong.
Fair enough. I actually go the opposite way of you three. I still think OMG is going to take it and ace the group. Partially on the pride grounds, going 8-0 is a really cool thing to have, be the only undefeated team in groups. I think just in general, they will come out hard enough and are a better enough team at this point that if they have the sort of the same level of trying, which I think will happen here, OMG will just come out ahead by being a stronger team. Well,
that's going to give it for the predictions. I think that OMG have already aced the group. They're working on their octa kill, if that's even a thing.
Yeah.
We're going to take a breather, guys, but when we return,